The sun was setting over a quiet Tennessee farm, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. A young boy, barely 8 years old, sat on the porch, his small hands gripping a fishing rod as he gazed out at the fields. Aaron Vaughn wasn't like other kids his age, caught up in games or fleeting daydreams. His eyes held a quiet determination, a spark that seemed to say he was destined for something bigger. One day, he'd tell anyone who'd listen, "I'm going to be a Navy SEAL." His family would smile, chalking it up to a child's imagination. But Aaron meant every word. That dream, born in the simplicity of rural life, would carry him to the pinnacle of America's military elite and to a tragedy that would echo across a nation. Hello viewers, and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll delve into the story of Aaron Vaughn, a man who lived for duty, loved fiercely, and left a legacy that still stirs the hearts of those who hear his name. It was 1981, a time when America was grappling with its place in the world. The Cold War loomed large, casting a shadow of tension over everyday life. Ronald Reagan had just taken office, promising to restore a sense of pride and strength to a nation shaken by economic struggles and the Iran hostage crisis. In small towns like Stuart, Florida, where Aaron was born, life moved at a slower pace. Families gathered around dinner tables, church pews filled on Sundays, and patriotism wasn't just a word, it was a way of life. Aaron's parents, Billy and Karen Vaughn, raised him in a home steeped in faith and love for country. His father, a hard-working man with a deep sense of duty, taught him the value of perseverance. His mother, warm and steadfast, instilled in him a moral compass that would guide him through the darkest moments of his life. Growing up, Aaron was the kind of kid who seemed to have it all figured out. He was athletic, tearing through the fields on four-wheelers or kicking up dust on the football field. He loved hunting and fishing, moments of quiet connection with the land that shaped him. But beneath the all-American exterior was a relentless drive. At 16, he tore his ACL, a devastating injury for a young athlete. 2 surgeries failed to fully repair the damage, leaving him unable to jog without pain. For most, that would have been the end of any dream tied to physical prowess. Not for Aaron. He pushed through, rebuilding his strength with a grit that would later define him. His family watched in awe as he refused to let setbacks dim his vision. That same fire would carry him through the grueling trials of becoming a SEAL. The world changed on September 11th, 2001. Aaron, now 20, watched the Twin Towers fall on a television screen, the images searing into his mind. Like so many Americans, he felt a surge of anger, grief, and resolve. But for Aaron, it was personal. The attack wasn't just an assault on his country, it was a call to action. He'd always known he wanted to serve, but September 11th crystallized his purpose. He wasn't content to sit on the sidelines. He chose the harder path, on the front lines, protecting the nation he loved. Within months, he enlisted in the Navy, his sights set on the toughest challenge it could offer, becoming a Navy SEAL. His parents, proud but anxious, knew their son was stepping into a world of danger. Aaron, though, was undeterred. He'd been preparing for this his whole life. The road to becoming a SEAL is one of the most brutal in the military. Basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, or BUDS, is designed to break even the strongest candidates. Held in Coronado, California, it's a 6-month gauntlet of freezing ocean swims, endless runs, and mental torture. Aaron arrived at BUDS Class 248 in 2003, one of hundreds vying for a coveted spot. The dropout rate hovers around 80%, with instructors pushing candidates to their physical and psychological limits. Aaron's knee, still a source of pain, was a constant hurdle. Yet he thrived where others faltered. He'd wake before dawn, his body aching, and dive into the Pacific's icy waters without hesitation. His classmates remembered him as quiet but unshakable, the guy who'd help a struggling teammate even when he was exhausted himself. "He wasn't loud about it," one fellow SEAL later said. "He just got it done." After surviving Bud S., Aaron faced SEAL qualification training, another layer of intense preparation in tactics, weapons, and survival. By 2004, he'd earned the Gold Trident, the emblem of a Navy SEAL. But Aaron wasn't content to stop there. He set his sights on SEAL Team 6, the elite of the elite, a unit shrouded in secrecy and tasked with the military's most dangerous missions. Selection for SEAL Team 6 is invitation only, reserved for SEALs who prove themselves exceptional in skill and character. Aaron's relentless work ethic and quiet leadership made him a natural fit. By 2007, he was part of the Naval Special Warfare Development Group, known to the world as SEAL Team 6. His family knew little of what he did. Most of his missions were classified, but they saw the pride in his eyes and the weight he carried. Aaron's service took him to the heart of America's post-9/11 wars. In Iraq, he navigated the chaos of urban combat, where insurgents blended into crowded streets. In Afghanistan, he faced the Taliban's relentless guerrilla tactics in rugged mountains. He also deployed to Africa, though the details of those missions remain locked in the shadows of special operations. Through it all, Aaron was known for his humility. He didn't chase medals or glory. He fought for something bigger, a teammate later said, for freedom, for his brothers, for what was right. His faith was his anchor, a source of strength in the moral gray zones of war. He'd carry a small Bible in his gear, reading verses during rare moments of downtime. To Aaron, being a SEAL wasn't just about combat. It was about living up to a code. At home, Aaron was building a life as rich as his service. He met Kimberly, a woman whose strength matched his own, and they married in 2007. Their love was the kind that could weather long deployments and the uncertainty of his job. In 2009, they welcomed their first child, a son named Reagan. 2 years later, just months before his final mission, their daughter Chamberlain was born. Aaron was a devoted father, the kind who'd spend hours playing with his kids during brief stints at home. Kimberly later recalled how he'd sing to Reagan, his deep voice softening as he tucked him in. Those moments were fleeting but precious, a reminder of what he was fighting for. "He'd tell me, 'I do this so our kids can grow up free,'" Kimberly said. That was his why. By 2011, Aaron was at the peak of his career. SEAL Team 6 had just pulled off the raid that killed Osama bin Laden, a mission that sent shockwaves through the world. Aaron wasn't part of that operation, but he shared in the quiet pride of his unit's success. Yet the spotlight on SEAL Team 6 brought unease. Vice President Joe Biden publicly named the unit as bin Laden's killers, a breach of protocol that Aaron and his teammates worried could make them targets. "Mom, you need to wipe your social media clean," he told Karen in a hushed phone call. "There's chatter. Our lives could be in danger." The Vaughns, shaken, scrubbed any trace of Aaron's connection to the SEALs online. For Aaron, the stakes were higher than ever, but he never wavered. Duty called, and he answered. Aaron and 21 other SEALs, along with 8 Afghan commandos and a U.S. Army air crew, boarded an MH-47 Chinook helicopter, call sign Extortion 17. Their mission was to reinforce a team of Army Rangers pinned down by Taliban fighters in the Tangi Valley. The Chinook, a workhorse from the Vietnam era, was chosen over the more heavily armored MH-47, typically used for special operations. As it approached the landing zone, a Taliban fighter fired a rocket-propelled grenade. The RPG struck the helicopter's rear rotor, sending it spiraling to the ground in a fiery crash. All 30 aboard were killed instantly. It was the deadliest single loss for U.S. forces in Afghanistan and the worst tragedy in SEAL history since Operation Red Wings in 2005. News of the crash hit the Vaughn family like a tidal wave. Billy and Karen were at home when the call came, the kind every military parent dreads. Kimberly, cradling 2-month-old Chamberlain, collapsed in grief. The nation mourned alongside them, the scale of the loss dominating headlines. For the SEAL community, it was a gut punch, a reminder of the razor-thin line between life and death. Questions swirled almost immediately. Why was an outdated helicopter used for such a high-risk mission? Why were so many SEALs on one aircraft, against standard protocol? And why did the Taliban seem to know exactly where to strike? The official investigation pointed to a lucky shot by the enemy, but for the families, the answers felt hollow. Aaron's death left a void that rippled far beyond his family. His teammates remembered him as the guy who'd lighten the mood with a quick joke, even in the worst moments. His faith and integrity had earned their respect, his courage, their trust. Aaron was the best of us, one SEAL said at his memorial. He lived what he believed. In Stuart, Florida, his hometown rallied around the Vaughns, filling churches and community centers to honor their son. Across the country, veterans and military families held vigils, their grief mixed with pride. Aaron's name was etched into the National Navy SEAL Memorial, a permanent tribute to his sacrifice. But for Billy and Karen, the loss was only the beginning of their fight. Billy Vaughn, a man of quiet strength, channeled his grief into action. He began speaking out, questioning the military's rules of engagement, which he believed had hamstrung U.S. forces and left them vulnerable. He criticized the decision to use a less armored helicopter and the lack of air support for Extortion 17. Our sons were betrayed, he told audiences at veterans conferences and on Fox News. His book, Betrayed, the shocking true story of Extortion 17, laid bare his anguish and his search for truth. Karen, equally resolute, joined him, their voices resonating with Gold Star families who felt the government had failed their loved ones. Their advocacy turned Aaron's story into a rallying cry, a call for accountability that still echoes today. One lesser-known chapter unfolded in Africa, where Aaron deployed on classified missions in the late 2000s. The details are scarce, as SEAL Team 6 operations often are, but one story slipped through the cracks. During a reconnaissance mission in a volatile region, Aaron's team was ambushed by local militias. Outnumbered and low on ammo, they faced a grim outlook. Aaron, ever the tactician, used his knowledge of the terrain to guide his team through a narrow escape route under cover of darkness. His calm under pressure saved lives, but he shrugged it off afterward, cracking a joke to ease the tension. "Just another day at the office," he'd say, his grin masking the weight of what he'd done. These moments, buried in the fog of war, painted a picture of a man who thrived in the crucible of danger, not for glory, but for his team. Aaron's teammates were his brothers, forged in the fire of shared sacrifice. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but his presence commanded respect. "Aaron was the guy you wanted next to you in a fight," a fellow SEAL said. "He'd have your back, no questions asked." He mentored younger SEALs, offering advice with a humility that disarmed them. One rookie remembered Aaron pulling him aside after a botched training exercise. "You're better than that mistake," he said. "Learn, move on." That balance of toughness and compassion made him a leader, even without a formal title. His loss left a void in the team, a silence where his steady voice used to be. The crash of Extortion 17 sparked controversies that still simmer today, casting a shadow over Aaron's sacrifice. The official report called it a tragic fluke, a Taliban RPG hitting the Chinook at the perfect moment. But for the families, the explanation didn't add up. Why were 22 SEALs, nearly a third of SEAL Team 6's deployable force, on a single helicopter, defying standard protocol to spread out high-value personnel? Why was a Vietnam-era Chinook less armored than the MH-47s typically used for special operations chosen for a hot landing zone? And why was there no preemptive air support to clear the area despite known Taliban activity? Billy Vaughn, Aaron's father, became a vocal critic, digging into military records and speaking at veterans conferences. This wasn't just bad luck, he argued. It was a failure of leadership. Another point of contention was the Rules of Engagement ROE, which many felt tied the hands of U.S. forces. The ROE required strict evidence of hostile intent before engaging, even in known enemy territory. Some speculated this delayed response to the Taliban fighters who fired the RPG. Our guys were fighting with one hand behind their backs, a retired SEAL told a 2014 documentary. Others, including military analysts, defended the ROE, arguing they protected civilians and prevented escalation. The debate remains polarized with no clear answers. For the Vaughns, the lack of transparency fueled their distrust, a sentiment echoed by other Extortion 17 families. Then there was the issue of timing. Just 3 months earlier, SEAL Team 6 had killed Osama bin Laden, thrusting the unit into the spotlight. Vice President Joe Biden's public mention of their role broke operational security, a move that stunned the special operations community. Aaron himself had warned Kimberly and Karen about increased chatter targeting SEALs. Some families and commentators, including Billy, suggested the crash was no coincidence, that the Taliban had deliberately targeted SEAL Team 6 in retaliation. The Pentagon dismissed this as speculation, citing no evidence of a planned ambush. Yet the theory persists in conservative circles and among military families, fueled by the crash's devastating precision. Whether it was revenge or not, someone failed our boys, Karen said in a 2015 interview, her voice steady but firm. And that's all for today's video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. See you next time.